Hi, Nador and I, we're starting to finish up our walk, heading back soon, and I'm out navigating the palm fronds right now. And again, now we're going to have to take on this deep grass and a little step down, a bank, and the garbage pile, and the outhouse. I love this part of riding out in the desert. It's a little sad, these garbage piles, but it's amazing cross training. Now we have a little mattress, probably somebody, it's where they eat their lunch or take a break, taking advantage of what's out and about to add to your daily practice. Now there's places here I'm having little discussions about the tension in his left jaw, so we're getting a little bit, the reins are a little long. I'm just playing with, no matter how excited or tense, this horse has probably an amazing aptitude for piaffe and passage. And I have not gone there because I think if we got into trouble and he did a default to that, I'm not sure what would happen. So anyway, as much fun as it is when he gets all balled up and kind of fun is, again, he's so cool to ride. But I'm just focusing on that the tension in his left jaw has to stay unraveled. And he's with my seat and my leg, but that little tiny part when he gets worried or he gets excited is, again, just constant little details to the conversation. Plus, I think I'm going to try to leave the background in on this video because I'm not talking to anybody. There aren't weird ranch noises going on. But in this case, you can hear the wind, you can hear the birds, what's happening with traffic, and it's just all part of the environment. One of the funny things with him, I started to teach him Spanish walk, so if he's a little excited and I make him stand still, he starts going through his Rolodex of what he thinks that maybe I want. And he has an amazing range of motion in those front legs. Those are the things that are, you kind of laugh, like, well, where's the horse taking? Oh, somebody's cutting things out there in the grass. And now we're getting close to crossing also the road again. So we're just coming back into all of these pieces. It's very good. Now, a little tiny thing is that marking on the road with the paint. He's fine about that. Now, the other day I'm riding Bugs, and Bugs was not fine about it. And Bugs is fine if a pit bull runs up to chew on his back leg. He is not bothered at all. But that white paint on the ground, he was bothered by. Now, my Nador, I'm not sure. I think we could manage. We've done a lot of dog incidences, but he has a concern about dogs. I mean, he spent his first 5-6 years growing up in a field as a horse, so I'm sure there's some instincts there. And it's just never boring with all these horses and getting to know how they're thinking. And I just have to say, I have to remember, how was it when I was 10 years old with my first horse? And I started riding at 4 or 5, but I got my first horse, Mariah. She was a Cremello with blue eyes, thoroughbred, quarter horse combination, 16 hands. I couldn't get on her. Had to find things to get on her. Didn't have a saddle the first year. Probably rode better then. Didn't know how to control her. Did a lot of galloping up and down the roads. I don't know how I didn't have lessons. You wonder how you really survive all those things, but probably not a lot different than when my mother would find me sitting in the field under the horses at the age of 3, and they never stepped on me. Again, horses are so magical. So my point is, Nador, because of his mechanical injury, his fracture in his neck, I'm just not sure he will ever leave my management in my life. So I gotta get out here on my horse and enjoy horses in the same way everybody else does. Because again, as a horse trainer, you get a little distracted sometimes. I mean, I love all of them, but not in the same way as just this, that I take an hour and I just go ride my horse. Such a privilege. You can see it's fun, all the different thing that's neat about the desert with all the, not only, normal seasons that happen, of course, not extreme seasons. We don't have snow. I mean, if you look at the mountains, they're covered with snow because of the height of the mountains. But we don't have snow, but it's still, there's a lot of stuff happening with the irrigation and the changing of the things growing and people out picking. I noticed driving in today, they were out harvesting carrots and they're already replanting, so there's tractors moving. Sometimes there's water irrigation that's bubbling out of the ground, so that's a training opportunity. But he's being great. A big part for me is that the horses, even if maybe they're have moments they get in trouble for things, is that overall I've got to keep nurturing the spirit of the horses. I'm going to say humanize it, but their joy, how comfortable they are, that their mind is engaged in the way that isn't stressful for them. They like to get out and see the world too. I mean, I haven't found a horse yet that doesn't like to go for a ride. Now, if I do my homework, hopefully it's a safe ride and we don't have to have major discussions about things. I'm having a little discussion right now because he's kind of getting where he was just for a moment. There were some birds in the tree and he was getting a little bit running in a way through my seat. So I made a little extra correction there. There's a balancing act to say, no, you have to stay with my seat and you have to have the decontraction of the jaw. In a way, it all goes together. But in this case, I'm always feeling, sensing, listening, managing, having a conversation. That's unusual for him to go a little past my seat, but he was worried. And so it wasn't a big reaction, but just a little moment that he and I could have a conversation. And because he had tension in his left jaw while he was a little bit running through my seat, then we had that little bit of a disturbance in the contact. So again, so interesting, all of this. Never ever stop feeling, sensing, making decisions. But what I was talking about earlier was I like to try to set it up so when the horses are in these stress situations of going out, new environment, that they can have success. That's how you start to decontract the stressfulness for them, that they start to become flexible and not worried, and all of those things. I labeled these two segments with him partnering. And the original design of Selfseeds, when I was asked to create, Marilyn asked me to create a workshop with Eddie, my dance partner, it was called Ride Like a Dancer. And the idea was to focus on the partnering skills that you need from dancing and how do they work with the horse. So because of what I learned in the dancing, I was the horse. And if I didn't have trust in my leader, another outhouse, if I didn't have trust in my leader, it was hard for me to relax. I mean, to really relax. And when I learned that connection and trust, I mean, completely surrendered to the partner, but still in charge of my own body and my own mind. But that, I'm going to say, obedient or submissive to the partner, takes years, takes a lot of trust, takes a lot of training inside of myself. But then when we would go to the dance competitions, there weren't many, but I did go. It was a way like being a horse going to a horse show. Is I was able to stay present and focused on that person's aids. I am sure that just like when we take horses off the property or we do trail rides like this, you find out all the personality structures, where they fall apart, and your own. And so I am sure it can be a nightmare for dance coaches when the dance partner freezes up. They still have to keep moving. The dance partner is like a deer in the headlights, and there's all this three-dimensional movement and everything that needs to happen in a fluid way and time to music. So I get it with horses that they need that time and conditioning to not only trust me, but also learn to trust themselves. And it's a bloody long pathway for us as two-leggeds, but it's a long pathway for horses. You know, when you look at some of the ancient history of horse training, they wore really sharp spurs and big bits to control the horses, and I could see why. You're in battle and stuff's happening, and if the horse gets frozen or stuck, boy, you need a reaction. I know I had a moment when I was helping in South Africa. There was a lion that we didn't see, and we turned around, and because I was the rider in the back, all of a sudden I was the rider in the front, and my horse, I wouldn't have picked him as a horse to lead a group. He was in training. He wasn't obedient in the aids the way I would want if I was out riding with lions and rhinos and elephants and all that, but that's what we had. And he froze up, and I know I got chewed out from the leader, who is now in the back, to get that horse going. And boy, I had to do some furious kicking and getting after him to unfreeze him, because in that moment there was a giant lion sitting under the tree, and there were 6 or 7 people in a file behind me, and that horse had to go. And I'm always curious, when I've had time to work with a horse like Nador for a long time and develop the partnership better, would those things still happen? I don't know. You know, there's moments he gets kind of scared about things, and definitely the world starts to unravel. So it's interesting, you know, big trucks and all that, they're different versions of lions. Anyway, so I picked partnering as the labels from Selfseeds because this type of work is such a big deal for developing our partnering skills. And there's always a risk to ride a horse, and so there's a lot that has to be considered. So now we're back to our gate and getting ready to head into the ranch, and he's been a good boy. He's been really a good boy. So that is fun, and it's another great day on horses.